Welcome people of the internet, it's me KMD. I know I wasn't here for a while, but I had to take a short detox from DBD from the fact that I was frustrated by it. So, recently, as if you could notice, the D&D chapter was announced for Dead by Daylight. And I am quite annoyed because of the reaction of the community to this announcement. Because people are angry at the fact that DBD announced a chapter that isn't from a license, that is purely horror related, which is just plain and simple wrong, and I'm going to explain why in this video. I got some bullet points, I'm not writing any long scripts because I suck at writing scripts, it takes too much time, and I think that writing bullet points will help with quality of my videos. We'll see. Okay, let's begin. So, most people in the DBD community want licenses that are purely horror related, which I think is a flawed way of thinking. When I say majority of people in the DBD community, I say the loud minority on Twitter that gets angry when a license that is getting added to DBD isn't the license that they are a fan of or they want to be in the game, and if it's anything but the thing that they want, they get angry, they say vile stuff sometimes, because there was a situation in which a Twitter user said that he's leaving the DBD community and wishes everyone croaks. I'll give you time to Google it and figure out what this term means in slang, because I don't want to say it on YouTube, because I don't want to risk my video being taken down, but you most likely can deduct what that means. So, I personally think that this part of the community has a closed head on horror, because DBD is said to be a Hall of Fame of horror, right? Well, if a Hall of Fame of horror only focuses on getting horror characters from specifically only horror media, horror franchises, then it isn't a Hall of Fame of horror. Why? Because a Hall of Fame of horror includes everything that is horror or nothing that is horror. There's no in between. If you're making a Hall of Fame of horror, you need to have everything horror in it. Doesn't matter if it's from a license that's purely horror, doesn't matter if it's a non-horror license that has horror elements, it does not matter. So, DBD, adding D&D, which is a non-horror license by default, is a good thing, because D&D has a lot of horror elements in it that can be used in a DBD chapter, and by default, it should be included in DBD as a part of Hall of Fame of horror. And there's also a second argument of DBD moving on from horror and going into a sellout phase like Fortnite. And most of the examples are cosmetics, which is already a message from me. Cosmetics don't provide gameplay content besides some reskins, so they should not be included as examples of DBD moving away from horror. Because, yeah, no shit, Naughty Bear isn't horror by default. No way. Or Rainbow Six Siege isn't horror by default. Congrats, Sherlock. So, outside of cosmetics, people give you the example of Trickster and Scarechant, or School Merchant if you don't get the shortcut. Why is Trickster fine as a killer in Dead by Daylight, and why All Kill is a horror chapter? There's 2 points to Trickster: lore and mad artist horror. Now, Pixel Bush really explained well the situation with Scarechant and Trickster being in the Hall of Fame of horror. I will be using his points in this video from his Twitter reply, so if you want to read it yourself, I will link it in the comments, if I don't forget about it. But you will see the screenshots on the screen, so don't worry about that. So, why is Trickster fitting in DBD? Even if some people may not like it, a K-pop star that is using screams of his fans that he kills in his music, and an artist that kills his co-workers in a fire in his studio to grow his career, is unfortunately a prime example of mad artist horror. What is mad artist horror? Well, it's a trope in horror in which an artist, like a singer, like a musician, abuses their popularity and all to basically grow their career in ways that are mostly purely illegal by the fact that murder is not legal in most places around the earth. It's not every single place around the earth. So, Trickster is a fine example of a homage to mad artist horror. Like Black Swan, like Neon Demon, like Suspiria, like these horror thrillers. So Trickster is fine as a killer in Dead by Daylight, and All Kill is a good chapter in terms of theming. Now let's move on to Skerchant, which I don't even believe that we should defend, because Skerchant compared to Trickster is Dredge compared to fucking Animal Crossing characters or something, like in terms of proportion. Because Skerchant is a prime example of something called techno horror, or I didn't really find an exact name, so I'll quote Pixelbush on here. A subgenre of horror dedicated to rich assholes living out a sadistic power fantasy on their victims. Skerchant, Adriana Emai, is literally described by this sentence. So even after design, even if the design isn't really scary, you can see that they tried to make a slasher out of Skerchant. And even in the lore, Adriana is like living out a power fantasy of her father's manga and is taking out companies in hostile takeovers. You know, saying that Tools of Torment isn't at least trying to be horror is saying that Dredge isn't horror, for example. I know it's a big example, but trust me, I'm annoyed with people that are defending their opinion based on Skerchant and Trickster, because these are just prime examples of homages to tropes in horror movies and series and video games and all that. So what are you trying to prove by that? Now let's move on why DBD is fine with adding D&D to its Hall of Fame. I think I don't need to explain it that D&D is literally what you make of it. You can make any kind of story with D&D. I'm not a D&D person myself, but from what I read on the internet, you can like make any kind of adventure you really want if you're creative enough. Looking at the cast of characters, specifically monsters in the D&D universe, I think it's safe to say that DBD is fine with adding D&D as a horror license, or a horror adjacent license. It's no-brainer that monsters equal scary and horror, you know? And even if the entity is known for taking people that would be scary in a horror setting, like let's take Wraith and make him a slasher in a horror movie, that would fall under horror. I wouldn't judge if it would be scary or not, but in an objective setting it would be horror, and it would be able to take survivors that would be able to fit this role in a horror movie. Nicolas Cage is a prime example of that, because he's literally an actor. He played in horror movies, even though he played in some really bad ones, like Willy's Wonderland, but let's not mention it, I don't think he wants to remember that. And my brother in Christ, open your head out. Don't complain that a license got in, especially like D&D. Do you know how massive D&D is? Like, D&D is one of the biggest things in society, in my opinion, because wherever you go, whatever kind of media you will go, there's something that D&D influenced. And a prime example of that is Stranger Things. The series begins with a D&D game. Demogorgon, Vecna, all of these are based on D&D characters. Dude, we should be happy that D&D is coming to DBD in any form. Not be sad that it's coming as a chapter. Even as a cosmetic collection, it would be gigantic, because there's already people that are talking that their co-workers at work are looking to check out DBD because of this chapter. So I don't see the point in negativity that, oh, this chapter is taking a license that isn't specifically horror. Shut the fuck up, please. D&D is massive. Let's celebrate that DBD is reaching for higher and higher names. We got Chucky, we got Alien, we got Halloween, we have Stranger Things, we have a bad remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, but still, we got Saw. At this point, I think that behavior is not even reaching out to license holders. I think the license holders are actually reaching out to DBD and behavior to add their properties into the game. That would be realistic, because I don't know if I make a video on it, but I personally think that Dead by Daylight is the biggest horror IP at the moment, because most of the classic horror franchises are either dead in the water or they are not succeeding. The only succeeding franchises I can think of is Alien, Saw, and Child's Play, because I recently didn't hear any successes from other classics. Maybe Scream can also count as a successful horror classic that's still thriving, but I didn't watch every single Scream movie. I only watched like the first movie and a bit of 2, which I'm planning to fix my mistake by watching the Scream 2 and other films, but I don't think that a franchise which is making sequels after sequels, getting into controversies, is making an 8th sequel, I think, is going to thrive off that hype soon, because look what happened to Friday the 13th. It's dead in the water. A fan-made project to revive Friday the 13th the game is dead in the water, because Victor Miller or Sean Cunningham, whoever even owns that franchise, wants to sit on their license and do nothing with it, and nobody, even non-commercially, can use it, because they're fucking stubborn to even use the license themselves. I don't even know if the series is coming out at this point. I don't think it will be, but surprise me, I guess. Now, the last part of the video is about how D&D will broaden the horizons of DBD licensing, because, as I said earlier, D&D is massive, and the fact that it's finally showing us that behavior is broadening its horizons on horror-adjacent licenses as chapters and not as cosmetic collections, it gives us so much potential. Like, for example, we can have Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, Portal from Valve, even, I don't know if it will be a free chapter, but I'm praying that Valve would make an exception, for example with Black Mesa, like they did, or Bridge Constructor Portal. I'm hoping for that. I have a full Portal chapter coming up soon. A beta version of this concept will be coming out soon on my Twitter and maybe on YouTube too, so a bit of self-advertising, but listen, D&D is massive for behavior, and whoever is telling you that it's a sleeper, that you shouldn't get excited because it's non-specifically horror, they should shut the fuck up. Open up your head. Please be happy that we are getting such a big license, that we can get even other licenses that can be turned into horror by behavior. Look what they did with Nicolas Cage. They made Nicolas Cage as an actor fit into DBD, and I don't think a specific person in real life, unless they're a real life serial killer or something like that, can be turned horror. But I guess they did it with Nicolas Cage. It's stupid, but it worked. So please, be happy that D&D is coming. Open up your head for possible licenses that are coming up. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. I'll see you on PTB Day, most likely on Twitch. Maybe I'll pull out a video of the VOD. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a like, comment, or dislike, whatever. Subscribe to the channel, talk about the chapter in the comments, I will surely reply to them. And yeah, I'll see you soon. I think I'm back. Goodbye, internet.